Hey YouTubers, hey, today we're going to take a step back from the previous videos and I'm going to try to do some retro videos on how we got to where we were, even though the other one talks a little bit about it. So let's get to it. This quarter panel on this 2003 Cadillac CTS, we're going to weld up. Went down to the junkyard, cut one off already. We used a Harbor Freight little reciprocating saw. It worked great for about 20 hours and then broke, but it got the job done. Then we're going to use this crimping tool. We'll have to put some oil in it and then tweak it up a little bit. I don't think that the depth is deep enough right here, so what I'm going to do, some people have said they've been filing this all down, and I just think that's a lot of work, so I'm going to take a piece of metal and epoxy it right on top of here to raise this so that this appears deeper to the jaw when it's used. Anyway, so we're gonna have to weld this up. But one of the things, you know, when you cut, the width doesn't always stay the same. So in order to make sure that the width stays the same, and then when we're welding, the heat transfer is approximately the same, we built this little gauge here, and it's just a little angle with a hole in it, and you stick a fine tip marker in it, and then you just drag it along, and then you just drag it along, and then when you get up to, say, like here, where you know you can't drag it like this, you just flip it over. Whoa. Just flip it over like that, and then you can move it along down here, or you could, you know, stick it in here if you have to, like this, and bring it down. But anyway, so that's what we're going to be doing. Areas where it's obviously we haven't finished doing the body work, where that's going to be way out here. You just mark it on this side and then that side, and then just draw a line between it. This does not have to be super critical. You know, we're talking about welding here. We're not talking about, you know, rocket science or serious machining. But you want it to stay fairly consistent. And for instance, just, you know, like 3 inches from here to here, that's quite a gap. So you don't want your welder, you don't want the heat changing that much. So anyways, that's just wanted to give you a little update on that. Okay, now that we have the skin basically sitting on the car, it's not doing anything else. We haven't trimmed this piece, and we need to trim it so that the metal sits in the crimp area. So we've trimmed it so the length is here. Now we need to figure out how far we need to trim this panel so that it sits in the crease, and that's right there. So with this piece on here, it goes to basically the bottom of the crimp, and then the other part goes to where the crimp will actually be right here. So that's what we're doing here, is we've drilled another hole for that, and we'll run it along the same seam, and it'll let us know how much of this panel we need to trim off, so it'll actually sit in the area where we want to weld. So that's what this guide hole is here. So that's what we're going to do. Stick the pin in the hole and run it along. And then you can always trim it, you know, tweak it later. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and get that done. All right, here we go. We're going to go ahead and pre-fit this quarter panel on here. What we're going to do is we're going to use some 3/16 Clecos and a 3/32 drill bit, which equates out to a number 42 drill bit, since our 3/32 one got bent. So our biggest concern is to make sure these line up right here, and make sure that this down here lines up right down here. We've already done this several times, so what we're going to do now, and you have to make sure this fits up in here, this fits down in here, and these right here pretty much line up. They can be slightly off, but not much. So what we're going to do is we're going to do that, fit it all together, and then we're going to take a marker, and any place that we think we need to trim, we're going to go ahead and trim it after we pull it back off. But we're going to use some Clecos to hold it on for right now, and then what we'll do is we'll actually make some welding holes outside of the Cleco holes, and then we'll use that to press down and weld it, and then we'll remove the Clecos, and then we'll just use our glove and press down and then weld it and make sure, you know, we got a good weld all the way down the quarter panel. So anyways, so let's go ahead and drill some holes and put some Clecos in. All right, we're getting ready to drill the hole. I forgot to mention it, so I'll mention it now before we do it. Is you have to make sure the distance from this seam to this corner right here is the same as this one over here. If you don't make sure it's the same, what's going to happen is when you go to put your tail light on, the tail light's not going to match up properly. So you just check that, and then you make sure the other one's that distance, and then you can go ahead and drill your hole for your Cleco and prepare to go ahead and mount your tail light. Check it. If all's good, then you can start welding. So let's get to it. All right, we got our first Cleco hole drilled. It was right at 3 1/4 from this edge here to right about here. It matches the other side now. Also, we seem to be fairly straight here. It's slightly off, but not enough to worry about. And so what we'll end up doing here is we actually beat this down a little bit. We may cut this out here, match this up, take a little piece, drop a triangle in here, and weld all this up in here, and that way it matches. But what we need to do now is go ahead and line up this end down here. Right here, we're going to line this one up, make sure that it's properly out and flush properly. We'll drop a Cleco probably in here, and then one in here. Then we'll come up here, and we'll make sure that everything matches up good as far as form fit. Our seams and everything match properly. We're not bowed or anything. Everything seems to sit down good, and then all this is good. We'll go ahead and Cleco it. We'll draw some lines, and then we'll go ahead and recrimp this and make sure everything fits properly, and that this is the level of this is the same level as this. And to the best of our knowledge, I mean, we did take some cable damage right here when we went through the cable barrier. So anything that's left over that's not quite right, we'll either build up and then sand it down, and then we'll use like a very, very thin skim of body putty, Bondo or something. All right, we're back on the quarter panel again. We have a little bit of reshaping to do up here. Need to pull this out a little bit and kind of fit this in just a little bit better. We actually got a little thin right here. This is just barely covering the edge, which is okay. We'll go ahead and weld it down, build it as we need to. This down here, we seem to be doing good. We'll have to match this just slightly. Just a little bit of reshape. Down here, it seemed to fit really, really well all the way around. It's even lining up with some of the original holes on the inside, which is good. It's what we want. And then as we move it here, that original hole we put there, there was actually a spot weld hole underneath it, and all it did was catch the edge. So we went ahead and put another one next to it. And we tried to put one here, but it's just next to the edge, so it wouldn't catch either. But we were able to catch them here. So we're just keep on working on it. Just keep going. Looks like it'll work out pretty good. So just a little bit more matching, a little bit more beef up. We'll have to work on this area here a little bit. Obviously there's a hole right here. We'll either build it up or weld it, or we'll put some body filler right up in here after we make sure it's structurally sound underneath with welding or whatever. So, but that's pretty much it right there. So we got it all Clecoed and everything. It's starting to look a little bit more like a car now in the back. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys. We'll probably do the actual weld in probably another 2 weeks. It's too windy to weld today. It's just, we got a nice little brisk wind here. I think you might be able to see the bush moving a little bit. But thanks for watching. We'll just keep going on a little bit at a time here and there, and we'll eventually get it. Talk with you later. Bye.